Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balapa Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balapa Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtottara Shadashi Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtottara Shadashi Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the simple devotees, all glories to the simple devotees, all glories to the simple devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
What is it? What is the alarm for?
I don't know, but every day it goes off same time.
Who's this at?
I'm just curious what it's for.
Yeah.
So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, entitled Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 8. Dhruva Maharaj leaves home, and we're on text 65. Oh, 62. Sorry. I'm going to read till 65. Okay. Ityuktastam parikramya
Yuktastam parikramya.
pranamya cha niparpakaha yaya madhuvanam punyam
Yam Madhuvanam Punyam.
harishcharna charchitam
Harishcharna Charchitam.
ityuktastam parikramya
Yuktastam parikramya.
pranamya cha niparpakaha
Namya Charniparpakaha.
Yayao Madhuvanam Punyam
Yayao Madhuvanam Punyam
Harishcharana Charchitam
Hareshcharana Charchitam
Ityuktastam Parikramya
Ityuktastam Parikramya
Pranamya Cha Niparbakaha
Namya Cha Niparbakaha
Yayao Madhuvanam Punyam
Yayao Madhuvanam Punyam
Harishcharana Charchitam
Hareshcharana Charchitam
Ityuktastam parikramya
Ityuktastam Parikramya
pranamya chaniparbakaha
Pranamya Cha Niparbakaha
yayao madhuvanam punyam
Yayao Madhuvanam Punyam
hareshcharana charchitam.
Hareshcharana Charchitam
Do you think you're going to get a Bhagavad Gita, please?
Ityuktastam Parikramya Pranamya Cha Niparbakaha Yayao Madhuvanam Punyam
Oh, thanks.
Hareshcharana Charchitam
You like to chant?
Ityuktastam parikramya
Ityuktastam Parikramya
Anmaya cha niparbaka
Pranamya Cha Niparbakaha
Yayo madhuvam punyam
Yayao Madhuvanam Punyam
Hares charana charitam
Hareshcharana Charchitam
Iti yuktastam parikramya
Ityuktastam Parikramya
pranamya cha niparbakaha
Pranamya Cha Niparbakaha
yayu madhu vanam punyam
Yayao Madhuvanam Punyam
hareshcharanam charitam
Hareshcharana Charchitam Ityuktastam Parikramya Pranamya Cha Niparbakaha Yayao Madhuvanam Punyam Hareshcharana Charchitam
Okay, word by word translation. Iti, thus, uktaha, being spoken,
Being spoken
tam,
Tam
him, Narada Muni, parikramya,
Parikramya
by circumambulating,
Circumambulating
pranamya,
Pranamya
by offering obeisances,
by offering obeisances
cha, also, nripa arbakaha, the boy of the king,
Boy of the king
Yayao,
Yayao
went to,
went to
Madhuvanam,
Madhuvanam
a forest in Vrindavan known as Madhuvan,
forest in Vrindavan known as Madhuvan
Punyam,
Punyam
which is auspicious and pious,
which is auspicious and pious
Harehe,
Harehe
of the Lord,
of the Lord
Charna Charchitam,
Charana Charchitam
imprinted by the lotus feet of Lord Krishna.
printed by the lotus feet of Lord Krishna.
Translation. When Dhruva Maharaj, the son of the king, was thus advised by the great sage Narada, he circumambulated Narada, his spiritual master, and offered him respectful obeisances. Then he started for Madhuvan, which is always imprinted with the lotus footprints of Lord Krishna, and which is therefore especially auspicious. Let's read a few more. After Dhruva entered Madhuvan forest to execute devotional service, the great sage Narada thought it wise to go to the king to see how he was faring within the palace. When Narada Muni approached, the king received him properly, offering him due obeisances. After being seated comfortably, Narada began to speak. 64. The great sage Narada inquired, "My dear king, your face appears to be withering up, and you look like you have been thinking of something for a very long time. Why is that? Have you been hampered in following your path of religious rites, economic development, and sense gratification?" Purport. The four stages of advancement of human civilization are religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and for some, the stage of liberation. Narada Muni did not inquire from the king about his liberation, but only regarding the state management, which is meant for advancement of the three principles: religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification. Since those who engage in such activities are not interested in liberation, Narada did not inquire from the king about this. Liberation is meant for persons who have lost all interest in religious, ritualistic ceremonies, economic development, and sense gratification. So I'll just read one more. The king replied, "O best of the Brahmins, I am very much addicted to my wife, and I am so fallen that I have abandoned all merciful behavior, even to my son, who is only 5 years old. I have banished him and his mother, even though he is a great soul and a great devotee." Purport. In this verse, there are some specific words which are to be understood very carefully. The king said that since he was very much addicted to his wife, he had lost all his mercy. That is the result of becoming too affectionate toward women. The king had 2 wives. The first wife was Suniti, and the second was Suruchi. He was too attached to the second wife, however, so he could not behave well with Dhruva Maharaj. That was the cause of Dhruva's leaving home to perform austerities. Although as a father the king was affectionate toward his son, he minimized his affection for Dhruva Maharaj because he was too much addicted to the second wife. Now he was repenting that both Dhruva Maharaj and his mother Suniti were practically banished. Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest, and since his mother was being neglected by the king, she was therefore almost banished also. The king repented having banished his boy. For Dhruva was only 5 years old, and a father should not banish his wife and children or neglect their maintenance. Repentant over his neglect of both Suniti and her son, he was morose, and his face appeared withered. According to Manusmriti, one should never desert his wife and children. In a case where the wife and children are disobedient and do not follow the principles of home life, they are sometimes given up. But in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, this was not applicable because Dhruva was very mannerly and obedient. Moreover, he was a great devotee. Such a person is never to be neglected. Yet the king was obliged to banish him. Now he was very sorry. Om Jnanatimidandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshudam Meditamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Makam Karitvachalam Pangam Langate Ganem Yakibadam Hambande Shri Gurundi Tanam Vancha Kapadi Vishta Kipasanave Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the attachment, Prabhupada used the word he's too addicted. He was too much addicted to the second wife. So attachment, addiction, it blinds one in the sense that one can't see what's important, what is their real priority, the priorities, and what's their real duties. Just like the king, he was too attached to his wife, Suruchi, who was more beautiful in his eyes than the other one, Suniti, Dhruva Maharaj's mother. So because he was too attached, because he was too addicted to his second wife, the more beautiful wife, then he very easily, or you could say, whether it was easy or difficult, he neglected his son, his own son, Dhruva Maharaj, and therefore Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest. And now he's repenting, he's feeling sorry, Dhruva Maharaj's father. So yeah, that's, you could say this was happening however long ago this happened, thousands, millions of years ago. And it's happening, it's been happening since then, and it's happening now that people become too attached, too addicted to things, to people, and they very easily neglect their duties and priorities, their real duties, real priorities. They're willing to sacrifice those particular relationships. Like, for example, someone becomes too attached to drugs, like maybe heroin or crystal meth. I know of one person, kind of distant family member, but she had some child, Unfortunately, she was under the influence throughout the pregnancy. Because it's hard to kick. You can't. It's hard to kick the habit once someone's addicted. So she couldn't kick it, even though the baby was there in her. So she had the baby, but then she couldn't control her mind. She couldn't control her senses. So she just hit the road and went off on this tangent. It's been years now. The baby's maybe 3-4 years old, but still she can't kick that habit, and she's just wandering the streets of LA on this mad binge, trying to satisfy her desires for, I think, crystal meth. So this is an example, one example, and that's just one. There's so many examples, unlimited examples. So therefore, Krishna, he gives us very clear instructions in Bhagavad Gita. He gives us a hint how we could overcome this material energy. And in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he describes that, Krishna. So I'll read the verses. And as Dravida Prabhu says, this is the lust section of the third chapter, the end of the chapter. So Arjuna said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? So she may not, that woman out in LA, trying to satisfy her drug addiction, she may not, on some level, she may not actually want to do it. So this was Arjuna saying, as if engaged by force. It's called addiction. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as an embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. Thus, the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Therefore, Arjuna, best of the Bharats, in the very beginning curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So there's that verse by, I think, Madhavendra Puri, Srila Madhavendra Puri, Kama Dinam Katina Katida Palitar Dvarnadesha. So he's saying, in how many ways have I sought to obey the wicked, the demands of my wicked desires? Yes. What is the rest? Yeah. So this is Madhavendra Puri's, he's calling out to Krishna that, please engage me in your service, and my intelligence is now alive and well. So please engage me in your service, and I'm neglecting these hellish desires, these desires based on lust. And interesting thing is saying it's enslay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So the more one becomes attached, addicted to the mundane, to lust in its different forms, the more challenging it is for Krishna to, you could say, reside within our minds, or for Krishna consciousness to take place within our consciousness, because our consciousness is full of so many other things. So the more we could kick out, or the more somehow or other this lust could be kicked out of our consciousness, the more Krishna conscious we will be. Of course, by Krishna consciousness it's kicked out. So there's just a few more verses. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence. Krishna consciousness. One should steady the mind by Krishna consciousness, and thus, by spiritual strength, conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. So that's what Krishna says. So steady the mind by Krishna consciousness. So by too much attachment, addiction to this world, one becomes a fool, out and out fool. And practically speaking, they ruin their lives and they become slaves to their own, senses and material desires, hellish desires, and they lose their freedom. Slave means they lose their freedom. It means they become controlled by the thing that they are supposedly enjoying, even though it may be absolutely stupid what they're trying to enjoy. Like they have chain smokers. I mean, I've witnessed a few chain smokers in my life, and like literally they light one up, they smoke it, and then they light another one up, and then they smoke it, and they just keep on going. 2 packs a day, whatever, 3 packs, 4 packs, something ridiculous. And it's not, it's just, if you're gonna, I don't even know what it does to you. Does it give you some type of buzz or something? Or cigarettes, yeah. It does something.
Not much.
Not much though, so. Yeah, it's like if you're gonna, anyways.
It's just addictive.
Yeah. So yeah, it's too bad. So this is the soul's choice. The soul's choice, whether they want to live a life of lust or whether they want to live a life of love. And so this is an important choice. Now, when one has their wits about them, you could say, or when one has some intelligence operating, or physical health and so on, one should try to make up their minds and try to pick the good option. And what I mean by that is that if one doesn't strive to pick the good option, means the Krishna pick the option of Krishna consciousness, then one may become covered by lust, and then they won't have the option, actually, practically speaking. Just like some chain smokers, you could say they have the option to quit, but on some level they actually don't, because they're completely enslaved by it. Or you could say this poor woman wandering around the streets of LA has the option just to go home and take care of her baby, but on some level she actually doesn't, because she's completely covered by it. So, Tirthamaj was bringing up to one point, he said that brahmacharis, he said, oh yeah, I've seen a lot of brahmacharis through my days, and a lot of them, they go through a period where they just kind of get attacked, by lust. And, he gave a few examples. So then he was telling me this years ago. I said, all right, so if that's the case, well, what should I do? And he said, oh, you should prepare. You should prepare yourself. So that's my point, that when we have time, when we have energy, when we have our wits about us, we should prepare. Just like in a wartime. It's not that the soldiers are just lounging around, eating potato chips and watching TV. And if they do that, they're going to go out into the field and get killed immediately. But they are preparing, right? They're doing push-ups. They're shooting targets. They're running around the block. Like you go to Pendleton, and they got the boys working there, preparing for the possible, right, war. So similarly, as Srila Prabhupada states in the Bhagavad Gita, it is a war with the illusory energy of the Lord. And in a war, one has to prepare themselves, or else they are sure to be annihilated. They are sure to be destroyed by the enemy. So every day, you could say, yeah, every day, and until one becomes, you could say, quite advanced and quite Krishna conscious, but of course they don't see themselves like that. But it is a war, and therefore there's the morning program. There's an early morning hearing and chanting about Krishna, and there's reading of Srila Prabhupada books, and so many things we do that will prepare us for the challenges that we face. So that's the idea, to prepare ourselves, and so we don't become attached, we don't become addicted, and we don't fall into such foolish circumstances that we see within our lives all around us. And some people, they may say, oh well, why do I have to choose both? I mean, why do I have to choose one or the other? Why do I have to choose, lust or material consciousness, or why do I have to choose Krishna consciousness? Why can't I just have them both? Fulfill the lusty desires and be Krishna conscious at the same time. And of course, some people try to do that, but the problem with that is that our chances of going back to Godhead will what's it called? Slimmen? I don't think that's a word. Slacken, diminish, slimmen. It will slacken. It will slacken the chances of us going back to Godhead. And the happiness that we do want will just become mixed, because it's not pure, because we're not purely engaged in Krishna consciousness. And of course, you could say it's a gradual process, and that's true. I mean, most people, they can't just immediately jump to the highest platform. But the point is, we should be striving as far as possible to remove ourselves from Maya more and more, and get closer and closer to Krishna. So it's an active struggle to do that, to remove ourselves and go closer to Krishna. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada gives us hints in how we can become free from Maya. And in the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam, in the purport, he says that one who preaches the message of Bhagavad Gita and srimadbhagavatam, they can very easily get out of the clutches of the illusory energy. So to study, to learn, to read, we have Devavrata. I hear him reading the Bhagavatam regularly. Oh, not this Devavrata, this Devavrata. Because he used to be Devavrata too, now you're Dhammaraj, right? I hear him reading regularly. Zach seems to be burning through the pages of the Bhagavatam. So, and others too, I'm sure. So that's the idea, that we learn the message of the Bhagavatam, and then we try to spread the teachings through book distribution, through speaking, somehow or other spread the message of the Bhagavatam, and then we could have a better chance of getting out of the illusory energy. So the attachment we need to develop, or the diction we need to develop, is to Krishna. Krishna consciousness, positive. And therefore we should try to develop some attachment for preaching. Once my spiritual master, he was in Bombay, and he went out all day and tried to make life members. I'm sure he did. And then he came back, and he was reporting to Prabhupada, and he said that oh, I really like preaching. And then Prabhupada said, oh no, you shouldn't say that you like preaching. You said, preaching is my life. Preaching is my life. So one thing, it's like, oh, you like doing something, and another thing is just your life. Like someone say, oh, I like Krishna consciousness, right? But one thing, it's your life. Krishna consciousness is my life. So to make Krishna consciousness our life, or to make preaching our life, that's what we should do. Cultivate that. And just, there's a book by Tamal Krishna Goswami, Servant of the Servant, and I'll just read a little bit from that book. It's about the December marathon. Now, of course, we cannot imitate such things, but it's quite interesting the way in which devotees were distributing books. And they were quite effective. They were distributing lots of books. So I'll read this short description here. So Maharaj is describing how he's communicating with Srila Prabhupada through letter and how they distributed so many books. And then Maharaj, he gives a description based on what the Sankirtan leader said in New York. While shopping centers and managers and sales personnel longed for Christmas to be over, the devotees wished that it would never end, that they might go on distributing Prabhupada's books ever increasingly. The pleasure they experienced by distributing Prabhupada's books was incomparable with anything they had ever known in the material world. Typical was the ecstasy of the New York devotees, as related by their Sankirtan leader. So here's the description. Santa and all that. We broke open the storehouse of the love of Godhead right on the streets of Manhattan, giving rise to the most amazing transcendental distribution of His Divine Grace's Krishna book, trilogies, ever witnessed in the history of ISKCON. The charge was led by Jai Das Brahmachari.
Those of us who know him.
Oh yeah, you know. It says Jai. Yeah, Jai Das Brahmachari, who in 6 days distributed no less than 4,127 books.
Say that again?
6 days?
Yeah.
How many?
Let me see here, sorry. Who in 6 days distributed no less than 4,127 books.
That's like 700 books a day. Krishna books, hardbound, but they're hard to sell.
Yeah, the 3 set, yeah. All right, so this is what he was doing, so. Dressed in a Santa Claus suit, Jai would dance and twirl down Fifth. He's jolly, big.
Fit for the job.
Fit for the job. Jai would dance and twirl down Fifth Avenue, shouting, "We've got what you can't buy for all the diamonds and Tiffany's, love of Godhead. Come and take, just give a donation. This is the cause of all clauses." At other times he would stand behind trilogies stacked up to his chin and distribute in that way. And yet at other times he would just run around laughing like a madman. In either case, wherever he went, huge crowds would gather, grabbing for books and giving donations. As a grand finale, he distributed the Santa suit right off his back for twice its cost. Kirtadeva Das Brahmachari on Wednesday distributed 24 cases of trilogies. That's like those are huge, pretty big books too, right? Those trilogies. Oh, soft. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, I think I saw those before. His lines were Bhagavad Gita verses in Sanskrit and prayers from the Brahma Samhita. Sometimes he would yell, Radha Govinda, at the top of his lungs, drawing crowds, who would then take books and give donations. Yeah. Tasting the ecstasy of love of Godhead. Dressed as Santa, he went into a bank. Now, like I was saying, we can't imitate this, so there's this, Dressed as Santa, he went into a bank. He went into one bank and practically threw himself on the floor, shouting, Haribo, Haribo. And people threw $5 and $10 bills into his collection can. Outside Macy's department store, 75 cases of trilogies were stockpiled. While 2 devotees opened cases, 5 others distributed, and through Krishna's mercy they were all distributed. Those opening the cases of books couldn't keep up with the distributors. There were so many people that one was unable to see the street. Devotees were shouting, Here it is, right from the lotus mouth of Srila Vyasadeva. We've been waiting 5,000 years for this, and now here it is, Krishna book, especially made for Kali Yuga. And people were saying, "Oh, Krishna book, give me one, and let me have one to give as a gift." Everywhere there was a sea of hands reaching out for books. It was like feeding starving masses. It was incredible, simply incredible. Devotees benedicted the world-famous New York subway system with oceans of trilogies. 2 devotees dressed as Santa would enter a car from opposite ends and run toward each other, laughing and bouncing off each other's bellies. The car would be in an uproar with laughter, and everybody would be reaching for donations. Even the police seemed to be cooperative. One even hushed a car so that a dhoti-clad devotee could make his announcement. Afterwards, the policeman asked, "Where is your Santa suit?" One devotee dressed in a Santa outfit got a donation from a Salvation Army Santa, who told him, "You guys are the best Santas I've ever seen." He took a Krishna book. By midnight, the devotees made a run on Rockefeller Center in St. Patrick's Cathedral, where the traffic was bumper to bumper. Lord Chaitanya's mercy was truly manifest in the body of one temple guest, who suited up in a Santa outfit with the devotees and went out in the 10-degree weather. The scene was so
Say that again, what was the temperature?
10-degree weather.
That's right.
The scene was so ecstatic that we must simply quote. The scene was so ecstatic that we must simply quote the words of Bhaktivinoda Das Brahmachari. I was struck with wonder at the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Krishna books were everywhere. Fifth Avenue looked like a river of nectar. So, yeah, there's a description.
So cold and inviting, and the wind like in Michigan, they actually couldn't move. You'd have a T-shirt, you'd have a shirt, you'd have a sweater, you'd have thermals, you'd have a jacket, and devotees would they'd have books in their pockets, like these Krishna books, and they'd be like a vending machine. They couldn't move. They'd just talk to the person, and they'd have to take bills in one pocket, and the person would help themselves to a book. They were just like a vending machine, because they couldn't close their hands. It was so cold.
Yeah. All right, Jay. So yeah, the idea is become attached to preaching some form or the other, and support, serve, somehow or other, be engaged in that. So does anyone have any questions or comments? Oh, you did? You dressed as Santa. Wow. You had a beard, too? Okay. Okay.
We used to do books. One devotee would be dressed as a Santa Claus, and the other devotee would be dressed as an elf. And we'd be in the car. We'd pull up to the parking lot, and some devotee would, in the green elf suit, would say, "Hey, come on over to Santa's sleigh," and they'd get books.
Mm. Yeah.
I did Santa in L.A.
So you got two.
We used to say Shanta,
Mm.
because Shanta is, one is in Shanta Ras.
Yeah.
Well, they had to get a permit in New York. They had to, show that it was in the Shastra, that it was Santa. So they put the youngish instruction of Santa, and then they showed them the purpose.
Yeah, it's right here. He mentions in the book, Maharaj. He says, I'll read it. It's, urged by the intensity of competition, we look for new, unique ways to distribute Prabhupada's books. In a spirit of Christmas, some of the devotees donned Santa Claus outfits, taking the idea from an interesting purport in the Bhagavad Gita. Santa, is the Sanskrit word for devotee, as Srila Prabhupada explains. The devotees of the Supreme Lord, or the persons who are in Krishna consciousness, are called santas, and they are always in love with the Lord, as is described in Brahma Samhita. The santas, being always in compact of love with the Supreme Lord, or Krishna, cannot accept anything without first offering it to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, such devotees always perform the easy process of Sankirtan Yaga in full Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, there can be no peace or happiness in the world. Anyway, so they, santas.
This candy, it's just, Prabhupada said, like lollipops, it's just sugar. Sugar and some flavoring, so you can offer that. So we used to offer the cases of small candy canes, about this big, cases of them. We'd offer them to the deities every day for breakfast, and then we were distributing candy canes. It's the way you got people to stop. Give them a candy cane.
Yeah. Amazing how, I mean, about candy canes, this is kind of a side point, but one devotee was telling me that there was one, like, teacher, professor, I think, or at least a middle school, high school teacher, something like that, like a professional person, and she was trying to say that, oh, we cannot have candy canes at school. You know, like Christmas season, you know, people that, oh, it's too religious or something like that. And then what she was saying is that, oh, if you hold the candy cane a certain way, it makes a J, which is for Jesus, you know. So we can't have that in the school. And then her authorities told her, sorry, you know, that's a little bit too far out, you know, that's ridiculous. You can't. Crazy how far people go.
I did a quick search for nicotine, and it does create a high. You're right. It says it creates a calming effect. They get a certain sense of peace from the nicotine.
Interesting.
Until they drop dead from cancer, you're not peaceful.
Yeah. You had a comment or a question?
I was just going to say that December 9th next year, I think it'd be possible for us to dress up the Santa. How many people there now festive?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, the only thing I would say about it, having survived the Santa era, people, you know, we did a lot of things that were, you know, what is it, happiness in the mode of passion. You know, it's happy in the beginning and painful in the long run. We did a lot of damage to our reputation. I mean, we distributed a lot of books, and you know, I was living there. So I'm not rejecting it or you know, but I can tell you with a long-range vision, we did a lot of damage to our reputation. The people thought we were phony or thought we were taking advantage. I mean, the people who got the books, they got the books. And that's a permanent, eternal benefit. It can never be reduced or diminished. But in the long, I mean, you guys don't know what it was like, but there was a time that we were considered like locusts on the nation. Our reputation was so bad. Because we did a lot of far out stuff like this. So I don't recommend going back to that.
Yeah, because that could just open up the doors to all types of things.
A lot of far out stuff happened. So, and it was a little hard on the devotees, you know. I mean, we had one devotee with Santa was selling kisses. You know, girls would kiss him, and he'd give $5, you know, and they'd give $1, and they'd get a book, you know. So, I mean, we're better if we say who we are, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was reading about the history in one Prabhupada memory book called Srila Prabhupada and His Disciples in Germany, and it was like really, I mean, whatever was happening there, they were selling records and books, and somehow or other, the public just really flipped on them. And then they went to the police and authorities, and everyone, it was so hard for the devotees, and Prabhupada, you know, stopped it and everything, but it was very challenging, and, you know, because of that reputation, you know. So anyways, that's all in the past, and
What was his name? Manidar? What was that?
yeah, Manidar.
He was so heavy. He's German, you know. And he would be in the airport, and there was a guy reading a newspaper. Manidar had a lighter and just lit the paper on fire.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And he said, I could not stand seeing you in such anxiety. Read this, Shapa. Read this. Boom. And he'd give him a first canto or a bhagavatam. The devotees, they didn't know whether people bought the book because they wanted it, or they bought the book just to get rid of it, because they thought, this is guy's nuts. So either way, they took the books. But
Yeah.
One is that in LA, there was this,
Oh, yeah, I know him well.
he was scheduled to try out for the NFL. He was a linebacker, crack by the foot. But he injured himself. And in, being laid up there, he got a book and he read the book, Prabhu's book, and he became a devotee, but he was still a tough guy. So one of his techniques was they go out to the airport, and he, meet somebody, shake his hand, and just come up to him and just whisper in his ear, take the book. All right.
Oh, God.
Money that I'll get this story. Show how far out he was. He was distributing all day downtown somewhere in Germany. And at the end of the day, he was getting ready to wind up. He had a pocket full of watch. And so some guy, he was near a big store, the alcove. So a guy came out of the alcove and he had a gun. Said, I've been watching you. Give me all your money. But Manida was so
Fired up.
wireless, fearless, and so high from distributing. He took his finger and he put it in the gun. And he looked at the guy and, blissful, he said, what are you going to do now? And the guy just melted. I don't know if he took a book. He didn't rob him. I didn't put the book up. That's the other side, money.
Yeah. We should, we were at the New Mexico Albuquerque State Fair, and we had permission to be out in front. And there was a devotee who actually sprained his ankle. He legitimately, it went on, it was 2 weeks, whatever it was. So after a couple of days, the devotee sprained his ankle. But, sincere soul, we got him a wheelchair because he still wanted to go out. And he found out that he did huge in a wheelchair. So his foot was fine in about 6 or 7 days, but he just stayed in the wheelchair because it was huge, So he kept in, but the thing is that on the last day, you're at the state fair, and then, he was in his wheelchair, selling tons of books. And then later on, he was picking up some groceries in the grocery store because they were living in the van, getting some veggies for cooking, whatever, But he was just walking around. And 2 of these cowboys, New Mexico, said, hey, wait a minute, I saw you at the county fair. And they beat him up. And on one hand, I don't blame them because they thought, well, the guy's, crippled, let's help him out. Or whether, he's, whatever the proper frame is, So we have to be careful. We don't want to be timid. And, we want to be creative. We want to be, and, but we can't be dishonest.
Yeah.
That spoils everything.
We want people to take us seriously.
The thing is, you get away with it, and then somebody catches you, and
It snowballs.
See-
It all comes out.
See, the first book I got was from a devotee in a wheelchair, but he was
But he was legitimate.
legitimate.
That's
Right.
not
Yeah. Of course, he was
That's another-
legitimate. All right. Okay. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.